British voters have stunned the world by deciding to leave the European Union. And then Prime Minister David Cameron, he said he's going to resign, and stock markets around the world have taken a nosedive.
They sure have. Britain may only be the first to secede, as other countries might try to get out of the EU as well. Dale Hurd brings us the story.
It is nothing less than a political earthquake, separating Britain from the European Union and sending EU leaders into panic mode.
Good morning, everybody. The sun has risen on an independent United Kingdom.
Britain's Prime Minister David Cameron, who staked his political future on remaining in the European Union, resigned first thing this morning. Germany has announced it will host an emergency meeting of the original 6 founding European Union nations. World stock markets were hit hard at first while gold shot higher. The British pound plunged to its lowest level in 31 years. There are a lot of claims and counterclaims about what would happen to Britain if it left the European Union. It's not at all clear which are true. We're much more certain about what lies ahead for the European Union. Crisis.
The EU's failing, the EU's dying. I hope we've knocked the first brick out of the wall. I hope this is the first step towards a Europe of sovereign nation states.
Polls show the Dutch would also like to leave, and Denmark. Still more nations may now find the courage to try. And because Scotland voted to remain in the European Union, it could hold another referendum to leave the United Kingdom. And the world economy, for the short term at least, could be battered by uncertainty.
Clearly the markets will be in a bit of turmoil. And I would suspect that the Bank of England is going to have to intervene very significantly to calm the markets down.
Some think Prime Minister Cameron could be replaced by former London Mayor Boris Johnson, who campaigned to leave and compared the goals of the European Union to Adolf Hitler's dreams of a European superstate. Britain will now negotiate a separation from the European Union that could take years. But talk of a European Union death spiral has already begun. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Well, it's almost like "Make Britain Great Again" has become a big political slogan there as well. And it's throw the bums out. That seems to be a universal, whether you're in Europe or here in the United States. It's a very uncertain political time. Now, what are the implications for this? I don't think Scotland's going to leave. They actually get more out of their union with England than they would out of a union with Europe. So that's probably going to stay in place. But what does it mean for Europe? Well, you look at the weakest members of the EU, and that would be Greece, Italy, Spain, and Portugal. Well, that probably means disaster for them financially. And we may see a whole round of government debt defaults because the EU can no longer support their weakest members. Now, will that mean a dissolution of it? Maybe. It could also mean united Europe with a lead nation being Germany. So we'll wait and see. For you, if you've got any stock investments at all, look out below, because turmoil is here. If you've got cash, this may be a time to be looking for some really incredible bargains. Well, here at home, leaders from both political parties are looking at their next steps after the Supreme Court dealt President Obama a major defeat on immigration. Ephraim Graham has that story from our CBN newsroom. Ephraim?
Gordon, the High Court put an end to the president's controversial executive actions on immigration. The justices tied 4-4, and that upheld a lower court's block on the president's plan. Jennifer Wishon has more on what this means for illegal immigrants, the immigration debate, and the election.
We are freedom bound.
Dozens of people showed up to protest the court's ruling. For many immigrants, it's a complete disappointment.
The Supreme Court, just like Congress, has shown a failure to our community.
The tie vote kicks the decision back to a lower court, which ruled President Obama doesn't have the authority to shield millions of immigrants from deportation and make them eligible for work permits without approval from Congress.
One of the issues at the forefront for many conservatives was that this was a blatant violation of the separation of powers. The president is not the one who makes the law. He enforces the law.
Good morning, everybody.
At the White House, President Obama hastily took to the press briefing room to scold Congress, calling the 4-4 vote a consequence of the Senate's refusal to confirm Judge Merrick Garland to replace the late Justice Scalia.
I think it is heartbreaking.
The Supreme Court action marks the end of the president's push to reform immigration, but he's laying a path for his successor, casting the November election as a referendum on how the nation treats immigrants.
We're going to have to make a decision about whether we are a people who tolerate the hypocrisy of the system, where the workers who pick our fruit or make our beds never have the chance to get right with the law.
Groups like CASA say the court's ruling only motivates them to work harder to elect Hillary Clinton.
We are going to mobilize thousands and thousands of Latinos and immigrants to go and vote.
Reverend Samuel Rodriguez leads the Hispanic Evangelical Association. He says now is the time for Speaker Ryan to take the lead in advancing non-amnesty reform that will secure our borders, stop illegal immigration, facilitate a legal immigration system while integrating those currently in the shadows in a manner that reconciles the rule of law with our Judeo-Christian values. And with a tie, the Supreme Court ensures immigration will continue to be a defining issue as the party's top candidates duke it out to November. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, the White House.
For 20 years, CBN's Operation Blessing Philippines has helped people through tough times of disaster and tragedy, and with neglected and disadvantaged Filipinos as well as people in neighboring countries. Asia correspondent Lucille Talusan reports the humanitarian organization has also brought hope to millions, even in remote and dangerous places.
No matter what the cost, the dedicated staff and volunteers of CBN's Operation Blessing in the Philippines reach out to the people who are desperate for help. Operation Blessing Philippines began in 1996 when it conducted its first medical mission with Filipino doctors and volunteers.
Operation Blessing Philippines, one of the slogans for it is, we want to give a hand up, not just a hand out. And so the uniqueness of it is that significant life change, where we give people a hope and a future.
Through the years, Operation Blessing Philippines has evolved from helping families to building communities.
After that horrible typhoon that wiped out Tacloban, and here Operation Blessing Philippines was on the ground within 24 hours, giving much needed food, water, temporary housing, medical care to people in desperate need. But it didn't stop there. And here we are years later, 2.5 years later, and Operation Blessing is still on the ground working and trying to provide homes for people in need. And we're on our way to completing a whole village of brand new homes that will be typhoon resistant, and I couldn't be prouder of what they've done.
Thank you, Operation Blessing. We now have a new house and I have a big place where I can play.
We're here at the 20th anniversary of Operation Blessing Philippines, and joining us is the mother of Operation Blessing, Dr. Kim Pascual. Tell us, what is the driving force behind the success?
First, we need to thank God for everything that He has done. The driving force is the passion. Passion to love the people, passion to serve God, and passion to love God more.
We see people in need. What can we do to help them? And how can we bring the kingdom of God from heaven right down here to earth and right down into their life to say, we want you to have a hope and future, because that's what God's promise is for you.
At the height of storms and floods and even armed conflict, bringing not just aid and provision to the people in need, but the message of peace, of hope, and the love of God that inspires change and transforms lives. Lucille Talusan, CBN News, Manila.
Delivering a hope and a future, indeed. Gordon?
Well, I'm very proud of them. They've done wonderful things. It all started back in 1996. Before that, 2 years before, it was CBN Asia, then the Asian Center for Missions, and then Operation Blessing Philippines. So happy anniversary, OB. It's incredible what they've turned into, from tiny seeds that were planted 22 years ago to what you see today. And the best news is they're now almost fully supported from within the Philippines. It's about 80% right now. And so they've got 20% more to go. But it's amazing what happens when we all get together and say, how can we do this? How can we help people around the world? How can we train Christians how to do Christian television? How can we train them how to do humanitarian work? And then how can we release them to what God has for them to do? It's all made possible because people like you care enough to give. So if you're a member of the 700 Club, congratulations to you, because this 20th anniversary is all because of you. You cared enough to give. If you're not a member, join with us. 1-800-759-0700. Wendy?
I love those colorful new houses, the purple and the pink. Did you have any part in picking out those?
I did not pick the colors at all. But it's really incredible technology behind those. It's very simple technology, but and then ingenious all at the same time. It came out of Australia, and they are hurricane, typhoon resistant. Amazing. And it's bamboo that's filled with concrete.
Wow.
And that creates such a solid structure. And they had video of one of the first families coming in to possess their first home. Here they've been completely wiped out. There was nothing left after the typhoon.
Yeah.
And the children are looking at the parents, really? This is really our home?
Amazing.
And it was such an inspiration.
Beautiful.
Hope in a
durable.
future.
That's right.